Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at something that literally affects every single one of us every single day. We're going to completely decode an incredible new study that was just published in the journal ACS Nano. Honestly, it's a super fascinating piece of research that might totally change how we wash our food and even how long it lasts in our kitchens. So let's just dive right in. You know that feeling when you bring home a gorgeous, pristine basket of fresh fruit? It looks incredibly healthy and appetizing, right? You probably just run an apple under the sink for a couple of seconds, give it a quick rub on your shirt, and take a huge bite. But I want you to consider for just a moment what invisible threats might actually be lurking right on the surface of that perfectly shiny apple or that plump cluster of grapes. Which brings us to a really important question. Are our everyday fruits truly clean? Now look, we know that agricultural pesticide residues are strictly regulated, and that's absolutely a good thing. But the reality is, even with those strict regulations, these chemicals often stick around on the skin of our fruits in very small, trace amounts. And over time, well, with repeated consumption of those same types of fruit, these low-level residues can actually accumulate. This is a pretty big concern because it can push our exposure right past recommended safety thresholds. And that's especially true for children, whose growing bodies are just way more vulnerable to this stuff. Now, here is where the data gets genuinely shocking. You might be thinking, well, hold on, I wash my fruit really thoroughly with tap water. Sometimes I even use one of those baking soda soaks. But current standard washing methods are kind of failing us. Tap water, baking soda, or even plain starch solutions generally remove less than 50% of these pesticide substances, less than half. But when you compare that to the brand new wash we're talking about today, which boasts a staggering 86 to 96% removal rate, I mean, that is a massive performance gap. It perfectly highlights the urgent need for a much better solution than what we currently have sitting in our kitchens. And that is exactly where the heroes of our story, researchers at the University of British Columbia, come in. They've developed a revolutionary liquid treatment that completely outperforms our standard everyday rinsing practices. And to be clear, this isn't just some minor incremental improvement, it's a huge step forward in food safety technology. They've basically created a completely new approach that is highly protective but also incredibly accessible. So how does it actually work? Well, the secret lies in what they're calling a dual-function post-harvest wash. Basically, the process happens in two totally distinct phases. First, it deeply cleans the fruit, actively lifting and removing those stubborn pesticide molecules right off the skin. And then, seamlessly, the process transitions into its second function, actively protecting the fruit with a sustainable coating. So it cleans, and then it shields. To really wrap our heads around the cleaning phase, I want you to think of a microscopic sponge. The researchers essentially created specialized nanoparticles. When these tiny particles come into contact with the fruit, they literally adhere to the surface and absorb the unwanted pesticide molecules straight off the skin. They're basically acting like millions of microscopic sponges, trapping the unwanted chemicals so they can just be completely washed away. It is such an incredibly clever physical mechanism. Okay, so the obvious question is, what exactly are these microscopic sponges made of? You're probably assuming it's some harsh, highly engineered synthetic chemical, right? Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. The formula relies on three very simple, totally natural ingredients. First up, starch, literally the exact same kind you'd find in corn or potatoes. Second, iron. And third, tannic acid. When these three everyday natural compounds are combined, they naturally self-assemble into those powerful pesticide-grabbing structures. It's just a brilliant use of basic, safe chemistry. But wait, there is an amazing secondary benefit to this process, a real plot twist in the study that I absolutely love. The researchers figured out that doing a second immersion in this wash goes way beyond just cleaning. It actually deposits a fine, entirely edible layer directly onto the fruit. It basically leaves behind a breathable, edible force field. And let me tell you, this edible force field has some unbelievable preservation superpowers. This part is huge because it translates directly into reducing food waste right in our own homes. Because this film acts as a breathable barrier, it dramatically slows down the browning of sliced fruits like apples. It also stops your fruit from dehydrating and getting all shriveled when you store it in the fridge. Get this. In one of their tests, grapes coated in this solution stayed perfectly firm for 2 whole weeks, sitting out at room temperature. No way, right? Plus, it helps the fruit maintain its vital acidity and soluble sugars, so it keeps tasting fresh and delicious for significantly longer. And as if all of that wasn't quite enough, this invisible coating also provides built-in antimicrobial protection. It actively slows down the growth of certain bacteria, safely extending the shelf life of the produce even further. Oh, and for anyone wondering about the iron content we mentioned a minute ago, don't even worry about it. The study explicitly notes that the tiny amount of iron left on the fruit from this treatment stays well below our recommended daily limits, making it completely 100% safe for regular consumption.
Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, this sounds amazing, but it's got to be some expensive space-age technology. Well, because the ingredients, starch, iron, and tannic acid, are so exceptionally cheap and easy to source, this tech is incredibly affordable and scalable. The researchers estimate that applying this on an industrial scale would literally add only a few pennies to the cost of each piece of fruit. That means this revolutionary cleaning and preserving power could easily be integrated into the massive global food supply chain without driving up our grocery bills whatsoever.
But here's the best part. The researchers aren't just thinking about massive industrial warehouses. They're actively envisioning bringing this advanced science straight to our own kitchen counters. They are already conceptualizing domestic versions of this technology right now, potentially packaged as a simple kitchen spray or even just a small tablet that you can pop into a bowl of water in your sink.
Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Think about the sink in your kitchen right now. Knowing what you know now about the 86 to 96% effectiveness, the massively extended shelf life, and those brilliant little natural microscopic sponges, would you swap your daily tap water rinse for this new scientific solution? It is so fascinating to think about how soon this incredibly accessible, life-improving science might permanently change our daily routines. Thank you so much for joining me to decode this amazing study. Keep asking questions and keep learning. Catch you next time.